Well, hello again. Welcome again to another episode of Down to Earth, but Heavenly Minded. I'm your host, Irv Risch. As we go through the Gospel of John, we did four episodes already, and we finished the first chapter. So today we're going to be starting, excuse me, the second chapter, and we're going to be looking at the first miracle that the Lord does. And if I titled this episode, it would be His First Miracle. And so today, let's just take a look at what we're going to go through. And this is the first miracle, or we would call them signs. Uh, so this would be the first sign of seven signs that are in this gospel. We mentioned them just briefly last episode, and they were the turn of the water into wine, which is the one we're going to be looking at. Also, the healing of the nobleman in John 4, and the healing of the man at the pool of Bethesda, and that's in John 5, and then feeding the 5,000, John 6, and then also walking on water, which is in John 6, and then healing the man born of blind, that was in chapter 9, and then the resurrection of Lazarus, which is in John 11. So we'll cover those as we get to them, but this is the very first one. So we read in the very first two verses of chapter 2, and the third day there was a marriage in Canaan of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there, and both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. So they were invited as well. Now, Jesus' mother and Jesus being invited, I would think, or I would assume, that they knew this couple. It could have even been a family member relation or whatever, but we know that they were invited to the wedding. In fact, we even see his mother kind of in charge of certain things in the wedding. So I don't know. It would be all speculation. But what we do get from the third day, I just there's so many different thoughts on the third day, and there are many different feelings about this, and we could go in and speculate a lot of things, but all I would say is that the Jewish wedding lasts many days. In fact, I think it lasts 7 days, and I'm not sure if I am right, but after this time, it seems to be running out of wine. So could it have been the third day of the wedding? Like I say, it's only speculation. We don't know 100%. Now we read as we go on, and they went wanted, and when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus said unto him, "They have no wine." This is why I believe I might be right about the 3 days, because the wedding must have been going on for 3 days if they ran out of wine already. Now Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come." And Jesus was not making a sarcastic remark here when he said to his mother, uh, and I got this comment from gotquestions.org, and it said this: one of the problems with translating, and I believe this true, from one language to another is that certain phrases have meanings not easily transferred. The phrases that don't mean exactly what they say are often called idioms. We use them all the time, and they can cause confusion in translations. For example, uh, exclamations such as "heads up" or "look out" actually mean the opposite of the literal words. If someone yells heads up, it usually means duck your head. Well, uh, a native English speaker understands such idioms instinctively, but in order to translate them, we have to pick words that are not symbols. Heads up might translate into words that mean get down, uh, or end up uh, being a confusing phrase. So you see, there's problems with this. Now, when Jesus said to his mother in John 2:4, sounds almost rude in English. However, it is, in the original language, uh, it's a culture thing. Mary would not have interpreted Jesus' words that way. The term woman was used like we use the term madam uh, by addressing Mary this way. Jesus doesn't distinct himself from his mother somewhat. He was uh, expressing himself. He was independent from her wishes, but in no way was it a rude matter of speaking. You know, we just take things wrong sometimes. Jesus lovingly used the same words from the cross when he tells Mary that he is entrusting her to John's care. And we'll see that when we get to John 19:26. And it reads, when Jesus therefore saw his mother and his disciples standing by, whom he loved, that was John, he said unto his mother, woman, behold thy son. So you see, it was a kind thing. It wasn't sarcastic. Now let's finish the story, and then I will share something that I had read on the rest of this episode that took place at the wedding. Now his mother said unto the servants, whatsoever he says unto you, do it. And there were 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. I'm not sure what that was. They were big pots though. Jesus said unto them, fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. And he said unto them, draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bared it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, every man at the beginning does set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. And beginning the miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifest forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. So we see the outcome of what happened. And this is just something else that came to mind. Not only was it wine that he made, but it was good wine. It was probably the best wine. And when God does something, he does it very well, and it is good. Now, after he had went down to Capernaum, he and his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and they continued there not many days. Now Jesus didn't perform miracles up to this point. So this would have been the very first one. So now there's a question that was asked. Why did Jesus choose the wedding to perform his first miracle? And I read this, and I'm just going to share what I read. Now, there is no way to know for certain why Jesus chose the wedding of Canaan to perform his first miracle. We can apostatize, and however, and we have some Old Testament prophets to help us pick together some possibilities. Now, it seems that Jesus' family had a close connection to the event in Canaan. The fact that Jesus' mother, Mary, is concerned with the lack of wine suggests that she was involved in the planning or organizing of the wedding. The fact that after the wedding, Jesus' brother traveled with him to Capernaum, indicating that Jesus' whole family was present for the wedding. Could the wedding have been that of a relative of Jesus or a family friend? It is quite possible. Such a connection would explain Jesus' presence at the wedding, but not his decision to perform his first miracle there. So, one consideration is that of honor. In those days, family honor was vital important. Weddings usually lasted for 7 days, and during which time food and wine and supplied by the bride and the groom's family flowed freely. To run out of either implies a thoughtless and impoverished host. Running out of wine would bring dishonor upon the family's name. As a personal favor, Mary turned to her divine Son for help. Her family was about to be shamed in the community, and she knew her son could do something about it. So, well, that's one good reason. Now, Jesus' earthly ministry had begun at his baptism by John's baptism, and we see this in the other two Gospels, Matthew and Mark. The wedding occurred over a month later after Jesus had gathered about a half of his disciples. Although he had never performed a miracle in public, it was time to demonstrate who he was. It was interesting that the quality of wine he supplied was superior to anything that had been served thus far. The quality of the wine stunned the host. The miracle made a strong impression on Jesus' new disciples, teaching them from the start that he could care for them. And, we could read Isaiah 46:4 and Matthew 6:8 to see this, but for time I won't read it. Now, Jesus created a wine may be significant, and this might have something to do with the prophets. Jeremiah had foretold that the Messiah's age they would rejoice in bounty of the Lord, in grain and new wine. You could read that in Jeremiah 31:12. Amos said that Israel will plant vineyards and drink her wine. You see that in Amos. The association of the Messiah with the time of plenty, including freely flowing wine, makes Jesus' first miracle sign all the more meaningful. Now, the fact that the miracle was performed at a wedding is also significant. By his attendance, Jesus placed his stamp of approval on the marriage covenant. And with his miracles, he shows from whence the blessing in a marriage springs. The love and joy inherited in a wedding ceremony are also characteristics of the ministry of Christ, who came into the world because of love. You know, and he brought joy to all who believe. Also, Jesus may have chosen this family situation to perform a miracle because it is something everyone in every culture can relate to. An ordinary setting becomes a showcase for his supernatural powers. Perhaps that is another lesson he wants us to learn from it. You know, he wants to do something supernatural in the everyday events of our life as well. You know, Jesus Christ is the same today as he was yesterday, as he'll be tomorrow. And we can rely on him so we can apply what he did at this wedding to our lives. You know, we can end our episode here, and the next time we get together, we're going to pick up on the first Passover. So this is something that we can think about. You know, the Lord is wonderful. He's gracious, and we see that from what he did at this wedding. He performed this miracle, but it was more than a miracle. It was something that brought honor to this family in this wedding. And you know, he does the same for us. Something to think about. So we will end here. Bye for now until next time.